the legend that is the man, the myth, the legend that is Rickard Hansson, and your founder and CEO at Weavy. I don't think there's anything around software development that you don't know. So I was really keen to get you back on again just to talk about the realities that customers are facing who don't have JP Morgan's budget in actually executing and adopting AI. And there's an interesting report that came out a few weeks ago from MIT, which I've got some snippets of to share. And in the last episode you appeared on, Rickard, you were live vibe coding, building AI digital assets just live, right? So anyone who's not seen episode 21, definitely go back and watch Rickard at work. It's phenomenal. So it's brilliant to have you back on today, Rickard. And first of all, how are you doing? How's everything going with you?
Good. And it feels like a lifetime since the last episode, since last we talked, but at the same time, it's been just leaping forward. Anything, vibe coding in itself, I think has been degrading, to be honest, because the platforms are struggling and people are realizing it's great to do the MVPs and whatnot. And then when you actually want to move into production, it's a different story. And then I've been leaning in way more into personally in agentic AI and how that can help our businesses. And what we've done there is basically then actually combining vibe coding to create our own stuff at speed. Because vibe coding is great when you know what you're doing. It just gives you superpowers. But then on top of that, I've been playing around a lot with AI to then analyze data to our advantage to give us insights and speed on the other end in this. So we built our internal tool for community intelligence. So crawl, ingest, analyze, task, get active in the community intelligence. So instead of spending $3,000 on a super expensive enterprise solution, we just decided to build it ourselves. And a couple of days later, we did.
Wow. So what is that actually delivering? Just go, and I'm going to say again, go civilian. Audience is civilian, not developer. What are the outcomes? What's the problem that you're solving with that tool, Rickard?
This is great because this is the reality for everyone. So I was sitting in my own world and I was okay, what am I missing as a CEO and founder and owner of this company? What tool am I missing? It's I need to understand what the community is talking about in general. And then, okay, that's one thing. And then I want to engage with that incredibly fast. So then I started to look around. So what do we have? A lot of expensive tools. And I looked internally, it's oh, I have a lot of talent. So I sat down with the guys, my people, and said we do not need a new version of Weavy. No one cares, but we do need to understand what people are talking about. So what I need is you guys first to create, okay, so what I want in the end is I want to have an agent I can just say, what are people talking about? And tell me where to engage and how to engage. That's my end product. And then I said to them, to get to that point, they need to first extract what's going on. So then I tasked every engineer. It's you create a crawler for LinkedIn, you create a crawler for Twitter, you create a crawler for Reddit, and so on and so forth. So each one started creating crawlers to extract information from the communities with specific keywords vibe coding and so on and so forth. And then I created a middleware where I took all this information they're crawling and then ingesting this into something called a vector database. And why is that important? A vector database means you can do semantic searches. You can do not absolute searches. You do semantically, okay, well, I'm looking for this and that. And then you can find correlations between two different platforms. In my case, Replit and Lovable maybe. And then on complete different sources, LinkedIn and Reddit. And then that is already populated 30, 40,000 records. And then on top of that, then I vibe coded a community intelligence platform together with Claude Code, where I now can ask this data, what do people love about Lovable? Give me a deep research, analyze patterns. And this is the thing people think is just easy, but it's not, because what you have to do there is first, you have to actually come up with a search strategy. It's okay, so now I have 30,000 records and the user is asking for what do people love about Lovable? you need to broaden that a little bit to find the scope, right? So then I ask Claude to come up with a search strategy, and then it will come up with 20 different queries, and then it will start querying the data. And then in the end, I ask it to, are you happy with this result? No. Okay, ask for some more. And then it generates a report. And then on top of that, I then have another agent say, now I want you to create tasks based on our value proposition. Our value proposition is this and this and this. Map this to everything you found and see if we can add value. If you have, I know how to scoring between 0 and 12. If you score 6 or higher, create a task, tell me why, and also come up with a response to that post. And then it will generate maybe out of 100, maybe 23 tasks, and then I can review them and then add them as tasks, and then delegate them to my people. So, and this was built end to end within roughly with 12 to 14 hours. And it's an enterprise grade kind of outcome in that sense. So the interesting thing here is like, this is like a mix of vibe coding and agentic AI. I needed a way to engage with community rapidly, understand what they were talking about, find the pain points, and then be helpful. And obviously doing that manually in all these different sources with all these different posts happening every hour, every day is not feasible. So I combined the best of two worlds, vibe coded the solution and agentic AI on top.
Whoa. So if I had the problem, which I guess I do in the sales kind of enablement world of, okay, I want to know what's the pain point now? How do I help? How do I refine my services for the pain right now in the sales community? Yeah. I could use the AI tool that you've created to just go on LinkedIn, find out what everyone's saying, go on X, find out wherever the platform is that's available for the tool to go and look at, where the community is, you can then go and see what they're saying in real time. And is that the concept, and therefore the outcome is you then the AI can say, well, look, this is what you should be doing slightly differently. The market's changed for you. This is what people need in terms of problems that they have that they need a resolution to.
Yeah, exactly. In the end, it's like how you instruct your agent, right? What is your purpose when you engage with this LinkedIn post, for example? And how I approach that is basically saying, okay, here's the post, and this is my value proposition. And like, but also clear instructions, like always be helpful, never sell. You always go in with like an informative knowledge sharing kind of approach, and then it just generates like amazing responses, and it's also resonating. Like, if you listen to episode 21, what we do at Weavy, we're adding collaboration features to an application, and then obviously I'm not just looking for people asking for that specifics, but so the agent reasoning is like, oh, here's a person who built a dating app using Lovable. They do not explicitly ask for chat or something, but I would suggest that chat is a great feature for this dating app. So here's a suggested response to this post saying, oh, great work for this dating app. Have you discovered or have you contemplated adding chat to it, or do you have it already? So it's reasoning around it, creates like a conversation around it, and it's just automated the whole thing. Like, I think it's like wonderful. When I saw it like this, I'm incredibly proud of the creation I created.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. And the fact that was done in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and we'll come on to now, I think some of the challenges businesses are facing implementing AI is you came at this from a clear, right, I had this vision. We didn't need Weavy too. Weavy's Rickard's business. We didn't, and you had a very clear vision on the outcome that you wanted and the problem that you wanted to solve, and then you got building the technology. So you might have built the technology in a couple of days, but actually the process that you went through beforehand with your team, if you hadn't got that right or hadn't done that and raced to just the technical solution, then you may not have been clear on what the problem statement was that you were solving for. And if I just go onto my share, and anyone who's just listening, then I'll definitely just say all of this as well. So if you can't see the screen share, don't worry. So segue now to the State of AI in Business 2025 report from MIT. So this came out, I don't know, a few weeks ago over the summer at some point, and a lot of people criticized the report for a couple of reasons, mainly proof of concept size. So the actual number of customers, sorry, the number of sample customers they use, not proof of concept size. So the sample size was only 52 organizations, but I still see value in knowing what 52 organizations have to say about the realities for them. So I'm not going to leap on and criticize, but I guess all of these reports kind of need the big headline. And the big headline in MIT's report was that 95% of AI POCs fail, so proof of concepts are failing. So I think we should pay attention to the data. And just to give you another perspective of one of the AI kind of like service providers who criticized the report, said that released their data, and they said, we've done 250 POCs, and this is what we learned. 30% of the POCs were learning exercises anyway, so effectively they achieved their goal of just learning. I'm like, gosh, it's a lot of work to learn, isn't it? To go through a whole POC. But anyway, but these are their numbers, not mine. 25% of the 250 POCs that this AI provider, I should cred them. I'll have to go and find the link. 25% of vendor evaluations to test to see if the tool fits before committing. Okay, got it. Seems sensible. 20% of the 250 POCs they've done work perfectly, but revealed that the problem wasn't worth solving. So it's like you going through all of that work and then going, actually, it wasn't that much of a problem in the first place. So a stunningly high number of in that category. And then the final category, where 25% are actual failures, and they define that as a wrong approach, bad implementation, or solving for the wrong problem statement. So headline, I've got a few other key points from the report just to walk through, and Rickard, get your perspective on. But what's your just initial perspective around some of the headlines there around these proof of concepts just failing or not going anywhere?
I think it's, the classic saying, shit in, shit out, right? Pardon my French, but some of that data was like revealing, like, it didn't solve the problem, or like we were focused on the wrong thing. And there's a big part that is technology, and the other one is actually outcomes, right? In terms of what AI can do for you and whatnot. So the POC are proving, okay, AI can do this. What we tell it to do, it's doing, but we don't like the outcome. I mean, that's two different things. So I think like this is the biggest challenge right now for enterprises is there's a lot of vendors out there, Crew AI and whatnot, who claims like you can create these different agentic AIs and agents internally for the enterprises that can do all this magical stuff for you. But it's very, very, I think, still abstract in that sense. Like, what does that mean? And it all comes down to, like you elegantly put it yourself, is like, the problem statement. Okay, what am I trying to solve? Right now, it's like the holy grail of AI is going to solve everything, right? And that's a pretty bad problem statement. Everything. It's like, okay, like I did, like it was a very niche, specific task actually. Is very cumbersome and very time-consuming task to do manually, to go through all those different communities, right? To find the right posts and so on and so forth, and then engage with those posts. It's incredibly time-consuming. So what I wanted to, my problem statement was speed, right? I wanted to, instead of spend weeks of doing something, I want to spend an hour. The innovation of what I created was pretty low. Value high, innovation low, right? So I essentially, hired a bunch of teenagers in a basement going through it for me by doing through AI, right? So I think these numbers are pretty accurate. Like it's very, and like, the AI is still ChatGPT helping you to write an email or figure out how to respond to the teacher conference, if you're using it privately or personally, right? And you just think you can transform this into the business, and you do that still, but it's just emails basically, where it's like really are creating values. what I did, for example, in this, my use case is like I harness information from community. In an enterprise setting, you want to maybe harness information from a bunch of different business systems you have internally, and then what do you want to do with that data? Do you want to have a reactive system that will ping you saying something is really off, or do you want to be just having your own ChatGPT where you can ask the data stuff, and then you have to obviously drill down into what that is. And also, the agentic AI is like, there's this, the autonomous piece of it, which I think is pretty scary. As like you just tell an agent to do something and then will produce something, and then you're going to trust that? No, maybe not. I'm still going to have humans involved in the loop. And that's why I think still like any enterprise should focus on scrap the agentic AI. The agentic AI can be like collecting data, but still have a ChatGPT UI in the end where you can ask it, because then you can see, is it providing what I expected? An expectation is one thing, and then value is another thing, and then play around with it before you turn it truly agentic. But people rush in to make it agentic and think it's just going to be magically working in the background.
Yes, and I think that's compounded by the AI agent companies. And I was just on GPT-5 asking it, give me approximately how many AI agents are being marketed to enterprise businesses today. And it can't answer the question exactly, but it came up with probably about 5,000, and it's going to increase to probably around 10,000 by this time next year. So all of these businesses, AI agent businesses, are funded, and they are privately funded generally. And that means those businesses need to grow, they need to get pipeline, and they need to book revenue, right? And so in that pressure, when you work for one of those software companies, you're going to start saying, hey, Rickard, don't worry, it'll integrate with your legacy systems. And you just mentioned legacy systems. And of course, everybody, it looks great in the demo and everyone rushes to implement, and it doesn't deliver the outcome, probably going back to because the outcome wasn't clear in the first place. Yeah. And then guess what? The magic AI agent didn't do it. So then let's take a look at I just picked out some of the kind of what customers were saying out of this report. So we've got enterprises are piloting. Oh, sorry, these aren't the customer comments. They're on, I think, on the next slide. But these are some of the interesting things that I gleaned from the report. So enterprises are piloting Gen AI tools, but very few reach deployment, hence the POC fail rate. Generic tools like ChatGPT are widely used, but custom solutions stall due to integration complexity and lack of fit with existing workflows. That's exactly what you were just talking about, Rickard, wasn't it? In terms of integration complexity. And we all agree that ChatGPT, Grok, Claude, these are super powerful GPTs that we're all getting value from. But if left generic, without your data, without customization, you've got a real limit on the value you're going to get out of it. And then, of course, how much can you integrate a public kind of consumer ChatGPT type product with all of your commercial information, for example? Yeah. So you mentioned integration, lack of fit with existing workflows. Two more. Next one. Enterprise users reported consistently positive experiences with consumer-grade tools like ChatGPT and Copilot. These systems were praised for flexibility, familiarity, and immediate utility. They're just super useful, aren't they, at your fingertips? But they're not driving the type of outcomes that an AI agent's meant to drive. And then the same users were overwhelmingly skeptical of custom or vendor-pitched AI tools, describing them as brittle, over-engineered, or misaligned with actual workflows. Whew. And that's that piece around the industry having a role in why these things are failing by the rush to get to an order. What's your thoughts on some of those comments, Rickard?
No, but this is aligned exactly what I said about like the enterprise user reported, like, positive consumer grade tools, right? It's helping them in their everyday life. And that's true, right? Like they're helping them to respond to emails, to sort emails, or they can take this MIT report and throw it into ChatGPT and get the talking points and whatnot, right? They can do all that stuff as an individual, right? But the agentic AI promise is this is going to help the enterprise accelerate, right? And then we come into another thing like stall due to integration complexity in existing workflows. So like, you know, okay, take a step back. What is the workflow? Number one, there's probably a lot of manual touch points, whatnot. And if an AI can help this workflow, how will it work that workflow? The workflow I described for myself was a non-existing workflow we had. It was just a frustration out of my head. It's like we really needed to lean in and engage with the community rapidly and often and on volume and so on and so forth. But we're only so few people. So how can I accelerate that?
Yeah.
So it wasn't in the workflow, but it was a problem statement, right? And we solved the problem statement. When I've been trying to solve existing workflows we have, very difficult, to be honest. And we're using HubSpot for some and Stripe and QuickBooks. You know, I want to accelerate how does the funnel look like? What is people doing? How can we see where it's leaking in the funnel? Blah, blah, blah. Super hard to apply it to an existing workflow. Creating something new, easy.
Whoa, that's a really big point, that, isn't it? That existing workflows can be really, really tricky to drive the outcome. Again, we're not talking about the JP Morgans of this world now, right? We're talking about big businesses, but not mega cap. Most of the CEOs that I've spoken to, and some of them have been on this podcast, have said that their ambition is not to shrink their workforce with AI. Initially, their ambition is to make, so if you check out the episode with Graham Donoghue, CEO at Forge Holiday Group, his ambition was to make everybody in the business 30% more effective. And then the net for that will be we're going to deliver a 30% better experience to our customers, and we'll win market share that way. And also lots of CEOs saying they want to take out the workflow that's really causing a horrible experience for some of their employees. So Sarah in HR constantly has to wade through all of these manual reports. How can we, and she hates it and she has to come in on the weekend to do it. How do we make her life better?
Yeah.
And so I'd encourage any customers, hey, go, first of all, before you try and automate the workflow, can you just fix it just by going through the process, get Sarah in the room with the team and say, right, let's understand the workflow. And then can we find some quick wins here to either eliminate it completely or speed it up somehow? Do that step, then look to automate at that step. But I think you need someone in the room who can tell you the art of the possible around automation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because like that, people are speeding into the automation piece, right? And that is also what you asked how many agents are out there. Agents, like per se, is like automation. But in reality, what people want to have is a specialized ChatGPT experience, right? They want to have the exact same consumer-graded experience, but it will respond with your knowledge and whatnot. So I would encourage any CEO who want to lean into AI is to focus only one thing and one thing only, and that is RAG. And that is basically fill an AI agent with your knowledge and have it only answer to that knowledge or use that knowledge as its knowledge, so to speak, not the web, nothing else, just that knowledge. And then you couple that with instructions. And the instructions is basically a prompt. Like a lot of people have what they call base prompts when they start a conversation with ChatGPT to have the right tone and da. Same thing here. You can have instructions saying you have knowledge, which is 100 PDFs or whatever. That knowledge is a sales playbook. Use that to help our sales reps do this and that and that. Doesn't have to be long, maybe 20, 30 rows. It's not a lot. And then you couple that with a ChatGPT UI. And that's your first focus on applied AI in your organization, period. No automation, no nothing else. Yeah. If you can give that to Sarah, going through manuals, whatever, and give her 2 weeks, and then also keep her in the loop in terms of, it didn't respond correctly here. That's just an instruction set. You can even give her the ability to change the instructions in real time. So next time, don't respond with this. Actually prioritize this and that, because she can have a conversation with the AI to respond better and train it. Because people think AI train itself. It doesn't. Like you train the AI, you have to tell it what to do, and you have to do that progressively and get better outcomes, right? But if you can do that, then or you should do that. That will alone, with the other person I mentioned there, will definitely increase your organization's productivity with 30%, like hands down. And implementing a RAG AI agent today is incredibly easy. And the problem statement is, do we have knowledge that we can pour into bucket? And can we give that specific, like a kind of a base prompt? And can we give that to a team of people and have them ask questions and increase productivity? That's the problem statement end to end. And if the answer is yes after 2 weeks, yeah, their productivity increased. Okay, that's good. We have something here. And then you can lean into automation.
Yeah, and Rickard used the term RAG a couple of times. That's retrieval-augmented generation, which is essentially, when I first heard that term last year, I was like, what the hell does that mean? What? And
basically,
anyway,
here's a
getting your data,
files.
right?
Yeah, here's a folder with
just,
files. We tell AI, look in there before you answer any questions.
Yeah, so you're going to go retrieve my own data about my business as you're answering the questions and generate your responses using my data. So I think that's a really, really cool way of getting started. Makes Sarah's life easier, so she's happier. And then you're in POC as well, so you're keeping her involved. She's training the AI with her prompts, and I saw one of my customers actually is now running a training course for their employees on how to prompt their own internal AI, which I thought was really interesting. And then Sarah might say, hey, do you know what? The only thing is it was quite slow this week. And it's like, right. We have maybe a latency issue. And then you might be into how do we increase the performance? And she might say, yeah, but actually, I asked about this data and it just said it wasn't there. Oh, right. We need to go and get another folder and put that in, or this data came out, but it was the old data and not the current data. And you're going to start getting all of these little tweaks that are necessary to make this thing work properly. But you're at the races then, aren't you? You're learning, you're into execution mode with AI, rather than we threw this AI agent that we bought at this problem, it didn't work, or a load of data came up in it, like with those early Copilot rollouts last year when it was coming up with the CEO's salary, pension details, and all this sort of thing. Why was that? It was because there was a chat in a Teams group somewhere.
Yeah.
The AI got hold of. So you got to keep it really narrow rather than just going, right, let's just give this thing absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And maybe not make it customer facing to kick things off. Hey.
True. And I also think what I've realized myself, I've been playing around with it, is like as soon as you get into this groove, right? Sarah is grooving with this AI and the people on the team, that's when you are starting to realize what it can do. It's like you have to kind of experience and then say, oh, this is cool, this is interesting, and what if we could, will then already pop up as a question. If you just theorize around it and whiteboard it and think it's going to fix it, and as I said, shit in, shit out, that's going to be the outcome, and then it's going to be that 25% failed because you didn't do it in the right order in that sense.
Yeah, indeed. So let's take a look at some more from the MIT report. Excuse me. This chart is showing why Gen AI pilots fail. Top barriers to scaling AI in the enterprise. Users were asked to rate each issue on a scale of 1 to 10. I guess 10 being much more of a problem than a 1. I would call it a 6.5 out of 10 is challenging change management. You need to kind of unpack that a bit, but yeah, hey, change is difficult within a company. We already knew that, didn't we, guys, before we went into this? So you probably got some communication, you've got some governance around that, and hey, someone with their hand on the rudder. Next, the same level, so that's 6.5 out of 10 as a challenge. was lack of executive sponsorship. Yeah, look, even Alexandra Musa-Vizadeh, who is CEO of Evident, who is in the room with the top CEOs in the banking industry, said the people leading on AI adoption in the likes of the JP Morgans and the Barclays and the HSBC worlds are where you've got executives who are really like big AI users outside of work as well as inside. So I think the CEO's got to be in the room for this one personally, and got to be excited about this. So yeah, I would agree. And then we have what have we got now? A getting higher, a 7 out of 10 on the scaling barriers for AI in the enterprise is model output quality concerns. That's your shit out, isn't it, Rickard?
Yeah, it is. But it's your fault.
Yes. If the output's not what you're expecting, then yeah, guess what? Go take a look at what you put into it.
Yeah.
And then the final one's the highest one, 9 out of 10. Unwillingness to adopt new tools. How interesting that people don't want to adopt new tools. They adopt things that make their lives easier, don't they? They don't adopt things that don't. But that's that point kind of linked to challenging change management for me. What's your thought on some of these, Rickard?
No, but I think, yeah, exactly. If it, adopt new tools is easy if it's helping your everyday life, right? And I think everything here comes down to the sponsorship, right? In terms of tools as well and change management, I would agree. But I think the most interesting here is the model output quality concerns. Is because you're asking the wrong questions. You need to, like, if you're leaning into AI, which everyone should be, like, I'm a firm believer, like, you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you're going to be replaced by the people using AI. That means, like, you need to lean into this. But if you hire a new person, don't you have onboarding programs? You have training sessions, you understand the company, here's the manuals, here's the playbook, here's the HR manual. You're making sure then you have follow-up questions with this person especially in the beginning, you're fine, you're good. Then you have performance reviews. Is this person doing the right thing? You need to treat AI exactly the same. Like, it's not there is no silver bullet, period. But but you can hire as many AI agents as you want, and they will do exactly what you tell them. You know what I mean? So it's like also your fault if they're doing wrong, because they're not making their own decision in a sense, right? They're making the decision they told them to do. A person you hire will definitely take their own decisions, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But it's the same thing here. There is no silver bullet. You need to train it. You need to work with it. You have to do performance reviews and so on and so forth. But if you do that correctly, you will definitely accelerate your business, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, and look, the 2 points I'd make on that. First of all, on unwillingness to adopt a new tool, there was no problem with ChatGPT adoption when it came out in November 2022. If you remember that chart, it beat hands down, it beat TikTok, it beat the internet, it beats Google search, hands down to get to that first, what was it? The first
Million users,
5 million users. It was like this vertical line of adoption up, right? And no one was training on us on how to use it. We were just all like, flipping heck, this thing's amazing. And so now their challenge is we can't get enough processors. So we know if the tool's done right, and if you give your employees an actual useful ChatGPT-like experience, they're going to use it. But the first wrong answer, and they're gonna be like, oh, this thing's not working properly, right?
And that's a good point, because like when you do approach this, like you need to tell everyone, like, you're part of the training. This is like, you're part of the loop. You can't just like be angry about the output. Tell me, thumbs up, thumbs down. You have to have a feedback function. So like now when we are implementing our community thingy, right? I had my problem stated in my head. I'm not running it now. Mark Jennings is my head of growth. He's running that tool now. And what he's doing right now is training it, because he's like, okay, here's the outcome. And what, like, I don't want this outcome, skip and tell me why. This I don't want, skip, tell me why. And this response I like, but I tweak it a little. And we're going to do that for a couple of days. And then I can give all that information back to the agent and say, these are the things we want you to do better. And then it's going to do that. So he's going to help me train it, make it better. So I'm then bringing him into the loop. and creating like a super simple UI for him to basically say good, bad, and tell me why you didn't like it.
Yes, indeed. And so he's constantly in the loop, which is partly governance and it's partly having the team in place. And the person with the actual challenge, no matter how junior they are in your business, they're the people you want in the room and you want to get them on board. Over at Forge Holiday Group, such a great example. I think they called them their AI advocates.
Yeah.
So they picked smart people who were tech savvy, who in different parts of the business they could bring on and say, hey, you recommend what we POC. What AI would you like?
Yeah.
And so that's how they're doing it. The second point that you prompted me to make, Rickard, was, yeah, I like that whole, and I believe that whole mantra around AI is not going to take your job, but someone using AI will. I think it's probably the same for the enterprise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is if you don't adopt AI in your business, you will lose to a business who does a similar thing to you, who has adopted AI, because they're going to get to 30% better, then probably 130% better. And that's what's going to happen. And I think that's maybe the new danger is once a customer has had a bad experience on a failed AI POC and everyone's now rolling their eyes at AI, it's not that great after all, is it? Doesn't bloody well work. And then you were like, well, we're not doing that again because that was all a bit embarrassing, wasn't it? And cost us a bit of money.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we've decided let's just wait another year. And what a strategic mistake that would be. And maybe that's what's happening in a whole bunch of these businesses where they've had the failed POC.
Yeah, just go back to the .com boom, when let's go. Everyone needs a website, and they create a website. It's like, did you generate any sales? No. Fuck it. Sorry. Or we need to do a white paper. Did it generate more leads? No. Okay, scrap it. Oh, do we have LinkedIn page now? Do we have a LinkedIn profile? Is it generating more leads? Nah. But if you do it correctly, yes, you will lose to a competitor who does it better. But the tools are here to stay for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move to the next screenshot I took out of this report. What are we saying here? Exhibit. This is the shadow AI economy. Totally real, that isn't it? And that is employee usage far outpaces official adoption usage of basically consumer GPTs, right? And so it's saying that for companies who have purchased an LLM subscription is at 40%, but employees who use LLMs regularly 90%. And all my customers are saying, oh yeah, we've kind of banned the use of ChatGPT. And it's like, no, you haven't.
No, you haven't. And also
no, you haven't. I'm sorry. You might think you have, but you haven't. And if they're not using your internal tool, take a look at the internal tool you've given them. But so this seems to make perfect sense to me, right?
And this is just like a signal that just bright red telling you, just imagine how many documents that would never supposed to be uploaded to ChatGPT, who has been uploaded to ChatGPT for a meeting, for a business plan, where it says confidential everywhere, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, but this is the Dropbox era. When Dropbox was new, all of a sudden people were starting to share Dropbox files because it was easier. I want to share a file with Ben. He's outside my organization. And my email doesn't allow big attachments. I'm going to do it for Dropbox. And then the CIO is like, shit, wow, this is a security breach. The information is everywhere. And you don't care because you want to take the least friction way of sharing something. And then obviously Dropbox went, leaned into enterprise and Box and so forth. Same here now. This is going to happen whether the enterprise like it or not. Make sure you provide the tools you want them to use.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So what was this one I grabbed? It's quite a funny one, actually. Perceived fitness for high stakes work. Would you assign this task to AI or a junior colleague? and one's AI preferred and one's human preferred. And so for a complex project, like a multi-week work or client management, 90% is human preferred. And then, of course, for your quick tasks, emails, summaries, basic analysis, 70% preferred AI. Yep, that's the point, isn't it? That we're trying to, so the complex project, the strategic stuff, how I look after my client and manage that relationship, that's what I want to spend my time doing, and listening to them and learning and hopefully winning new work with them. The quick stuff, I want AI to do that. So I wasn't kind of surprised with this. But what I would say is your example that you started this podcast episode with, Rickard, was quite a complex task that you're now built an AI agent to actually deliver.
Yeah. The thing is, like, multi-week work, it says here, like client management, whatnot. Of course, you don't want something to be automated where you have no control, right? You need to have an approval process. And that's what I created. Like, I have an agent, we have the scrapers ingesting it, and then we have an agent analyzing it and then creating tasks about it. But I would never let the AI just go rogue and just posting things on my name on Reddit without me reviewing it, right? But I don't want to do the heavy work. The only concern I have is, like, am I missing out on something? Am I looking at the right things, or blah, blah, blah? And that's the training process. Like, I need to focus and do some manual testing as well. So, like, I have my agent in the background, but I also have my own ChatGPT experience where I can ask it very pointy questions and then see, did my background, my agent, find the same thing as I did? If it didn't, then I trained it wrongly, right? I kind of align that. So, I mean, not anytime soon you're going to give a complex project an AI alone and then say, go off. But in that complex project, there's a lot of tasks you're doing that you can alone speed up, which I'm doing right now, right? So instead of doing all this scraping on my own and then put it in some kind of document and then task it and that, I've shortened that.
Yeah, look, and I think this is the goal: is make a start, get this technology useful somewhere in your business to take on as they're calling them, these quick tasks.
Yeah.
And then build on it to go for the more complex. Let's look at the next one. How executives select Gen AI vendors. This is derived from interviews and coded by these categories, it's saying. So 50% of the reason why executives select Gen AI vendors is down to flexibility when things change. Next one is 60% was down to the ability to improve over time. And then 65, clear data boundaries, 65%. 70% of the reason was minimal disruption to current tools. 75% was down to deep understanding of our workflow. And then 90% was a vendor we trust. Few things in there. One of the, if you actually read the report, what they were saying was over and over again is the AI is not learning. It's just still, it's not learning and it's not adapting. And maybe that's that piece around the ability to improve over time and sort of grow and learn with you. But what some of these make sense, right, Rickard? But what's your perspective?
Depends on the definition of Gen AI, right? Gen AI, there's not that many. You have OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, Grok, basically, right? And then you have people implementing these and working with them, like Deloitte and Accenture and whatnot. I don't know what, like, exactly how this question is asked, because this is like how executives select an operative system is basically what they're asking. It's like, is it Mac OS, Linux, or Windows? It's not that many to choose from. And this is kind of I would think, like, kind of a shit in, shit out again. Like, it's a pretty bad question. It's like, okay, generative AI is per definition generative. It will answer you. If you ask the population of Sweden, it will give me that answer. But if you're going to ask me, what is Bendrex University doing and how should they improve business based on the data I have in my CRM, it will say, I have no clue.
Yes.
Right? So that's where agentic AI comes in. And, like, the question should be, like, how executives select agentic AI vendors, maybe, which should be the question. And to be honest, there's not that many to choose from. And you can build agentic AI with any generative AI. Now, if you're going to throw around words. So because I used, like, for our thing, we're using Claude, Anthropic. So that's the AI engine, so to speak, the LLM. The vendor is Anthropic. And but then we train that specifically for our use case. And now we have our own RAG. The RAG is the community data, right? That's the RAG.
Yes.
I don't ask you to ask anything for internet, and I train it to say, I don't give a crap about your training you have in your memory. Just care about what we have. Don't taint it with your opinions, is basically where I'm telling it to. So it's very like focusing on mine.
It's that focus on workflow that we've discussed, data. Where's the data? What state's the data in? Is the data accurate? And has it got gaps in it? Because if that's the shit in, if it is, which is going to give you the shit out, and your parlance, Rickard, which I love. And then never more so did you need a partner who really understands your business and doesn't just have this generic view that the technology is going to just magically work. Oh yeah, here's some of the quotes. These are direct quotes. So we're on vendors. We're more likely to wait for our existing partner to add AI than gamble on a startup. Lots of what we didn't discuss is lots of these big SaaS. You got Agent Force, all the big SaaS providers have got all their AI agents now. And it's, don't you worry about those new AI agents. You stick with us. You'll be just fine. So just to confuse matters even more. Next quote was, most vendors don't get how our approvals or data flows work. Yet that was ever thus. It was ever thus in technology. I've been delivering these programs for years and years and years, and that's always the problem. Next one, if it doesn't plug into Salesforce or our internal systems, no one's going to use it. Yet, completely, if it's, again, it doesn't have access to the critical data, as Rickard just outlined, then you're not going to, you have no RAG, you have nothing to retrieve, and it's just going to be too generic for you. Next one is, I can't risk client data mixing with someone else's model, even if the vendor says it's fine. I love that. The vendor said it's absolutely fine for us to drop all of our commercial information into that AI. They said it would be cool. Don't you worry about that. Of course they did. Two more, and then I'll get your take, Rickard. It's useful the first week, but then it just repeats the same mistakes. Why would I use that? And then finally, our process evolves every quarter. If the AI can't adapt, we're back to spreadsheets.
Oh man, this is like, drizzled in misconceptions and and like buying the silver bullet promise from a lot of the vendors. But a lot of this is back to the analogy I did before. Like when you hire a new person, you have to train them, you have to follow up, you have to do performance reviews, you have to change. And these like it's like if it doesn't adapt, we're back to spreadsheets. Yeah, but if you're just going to deploy an AI and then think it's just going to figure it out itself, that's not what's going to happen. AI is like not that smart. AI is dumb, right? In the end, it's just making very qualified guesses. In the end, that's what AI is, if you're going to be honest with each other. But so these are like, and also like, again, like, crap in, crap out analogy is like, yes, data is something, but also if you tell it the wrong instructions around the data and how you massage the data through that workflow, and you get something out in the other end for the end user, all those things are crap in, crap out. And people think it's like a ChatGPT experience. Question in, something comes out, and that's the workflow. But in reality, as I said, like my agent I created is like a multiple step agent that is, I said, okay, someone is asking for something. First, I have to analyze what are they asking for, so I can come up with a search strategy. And that's going to create like 10 different queries. And then when it's done with that and extracted all the information, I ask the agent again, are you happy with this? Do you like this? Or do you think you need more? I do think I need more. So I'm going to create 3 more questions. And then I'm happy with this result. Now I'm going to analyze this result. And then when you analyze the result, it's like, you can ask the AI agent again, are you happy with this one? If you're actually going to be critical with yourself. And then you can actually mix that around. Like you can have Claude in one phase, and then you can have Gemini in another one, just to get like a second opinion kind of approach. And then you can ask ChatGPT in the end or OpenAI in the end and say like, take the best of those 2 reports and deliver that to the end user. All this is input to create an output, but people think it's just input output. So data, absolutely. But the magic with data is like AI is worth nothing for an enterprise if it's not your data. And when it comes to data, you should actually approach it like in the like a decade ago, there was this big trend called big data. Dump all you have in one big data set. Don't categorize, don't tag it, don't care. Because if you put something on top of that, you will see the thread, you will see the patterns, and that is correct. And that is even more so now, because RAG is basically dump it all into some kind of a RAG, and then the AI will find the patterns together with your instructions. So the gaps are fine, because you might find the gaps, and don't over-engineer the data collection. Just take it and dump it. Because that's like the first conversation I had with my engineers when we're going to do this is like, but how do we filter it? Like, and how do we think about, like, should I value the LinkedIn post I'm looking at before I ingest this? Said, no, just dump it. Just dump it. Because in that LinkedIn post, there is an intention, there is a story that you can analyze, and you can see it's about something. It's about Lovable. It's about Replit. It's about X, Y, Z. The AI will figure that out, but it needs to be able to retrieve it effectively. And that is a RAG.
Yes, yes.
Together with instructions. If you say it's financial data, it will figure it out. If you say it's community data, it will have a different approach.
Yeah.
So that process of collecting data, do not over-engineer, just dump it. And then you train the AI agent around that particular data set.
Yeah, absolutely, and such great advice. And the whole point of this podcast is we believe in AI. Everyone listening to this especially if you've got all the way through this podcast, you believe in AI. Of course you do. We know it's super powerful. It's just helping businesses execute their initial footsteps in using AI. And don't worry, everybody, we are still early. Right, this is super early in this industry, for sure. Now, if you'd like any help on that, and you want to speak to myself and Rickard, because you just want to chat through where you're at in terms of your AI initiatives, maybe you're in the bucket of people who are having problems with POCs, just reach out. You've got our contact details in the show notes of this podcast. And I know we've got a hard stop now, Rickard. So thank you for joining again today. I thought that was a really useful episode, and I hope you enjoyed it too, Rickard. So we will definitely be having you back on, definitely before Christmas, hey?
Let's do. The world will change again.
Yeah, it will. But okay, brilliant, awesome. Well, look, thanks so much, and let's wrap it up there. I'll see you on the next one.